Hey everyone. Hope you're having a great weekend. It is Sunday afternoon, kind of in between football games, 4 o'clock here in the East Coast. Um, some of you may have noticed I've been getting emails from people that some of my videos are blocked. I referred to a Dominic Miller interview, as a matter of fact, yesterday, and that video, someone wrote to me and said was blocked. Another video that I did with Tori Amos, who I just interviewed, I just came back from Europe. That interview is blocked as well. That video is blocked. As a matter of fact, a bunch of my videos are blocked right now. It's a dispute between CSAC and YouTube. They don't have the rights worked out with it. Hopefully, it'll get resolved soon. But you may notice this on many YouTube channels. It's not exclusive to mine. It's on many YouTube channels. So if you see something that says this content is blocked, it's only blocked in the United States. It's not blocked in Europe. I checked it today. But that's something that we're dealing with right now. As a matter of fact, that's why I won't put out my Tori Amos interview until that's resolved. I won't be able to, because some of the things that we talk about are related to some of her records that would have that same problem. Okay, a couple other things. I'm going to talk about yesterday's video. My ad read for today is the Beato Platinum Bundle that's on sale through October 4th at midnight. $119, all 5 of my courses, which includes my Beato Book Interactive video course, my ear training program, which has 80 video lessons. It has hundreds of interactive training modules to help get your ear to where you can learn songs by ear like I do. It's got a 27-page booklet that goes with it that goes over the same theory that you use in the Beato Book Interactive beginner guitar course. If you haven't played it all and you want to start right now, or the Quick Lessons Pro Guitar course, which is more of an intermediate course. That's got 5 hours of video content, guitar profiles and notation and tabs, and then the Arpeggio Masterclass. All of these for $119. This is basically a savings of $586. It's a great deal, I believe. Most people sell their courses for, $150. If you go look around, that's the case. And I do it because I sell educational courses so that I can remain independent. So not only does it benefit you, it benefits me, which benefits everyone in the long run, because it actually enables me to do things like I just did. So as I said, I just came back from Europe. I was there for 10 days. I flew to Florence, Italy. I drove down to Rick Rubin's villa, which is in Tuscany. I went with Mike, who's my production manager, who's on the stream here. Mike and I travel on all these video shoots when we do interviews. Obviously, the videos I do here. But these things take tremendous coordination. Mike coordinates all the film crew stuff, and because there's always 2 components of this. There's film and audio, and then there's audio, because like with Tori Amos, when Tori's playing the piano or singing, or any of the people are playing or singing or playing guitar, anything that's recorded is recorded in recording studios into Pro Tools by recording engineers. So you have the studio that you rent out. This was at Tori's studio, so there's no rental, and the other thing was at Rick's. But there's still the expense of flying over there, staying in hotels, renting cars and gear. With Tori's, I had Pavel come over that works with me when we do the interviews here, and he films all the interviews because they're more complicated than my normal videos, because they take 3 cameras. And I want these things to withstand the test of time. I film them in the best quality I can afford to, 3 camera shoots with the best audio that I can afford to, because it's important for you guys, to me, to be able to present things that I think are important for people to know about. Okay, like the history of recorded music, or the history of recorded music through whatever I can provide through that's in my lifetime. I've done over 100 interviews that, like I said in my video yesterday, that for those of you that got a chance to watch it, it's number 43 on trending right now. But it is. I talk about how traditional media is being crushed by streaming, cable media, and the when I say traditional, I'm talking about ABC, CBS, NBC. That kind of traditional media is being crushed by YouTube. Essentially, YouTube is the biggest streaming platform, and because I have a big channel, I just hit 4.5 million subscribers about an hour ago. Thank you. I feel like I have a responsibility to give back, and I've kind of always felt that with, which is why I created this channel. Because I wish these things existed when I was a kid, and I could go and watch interviews with Pat Metheny or Dominic Miller or Steve Lukather or Billy Corgan or Peter Frampton or Andy Summers or the young players, Mateus Asado, Mohini Day, Matteo Mancuso, or ask Maynard from Tool how he writes his melodies, or Danny Carey how they come up with drum parts and go to Tool's rehearsal space, or have Brendan O'Brien in here that produced so many of my favorite albums over the last 30 years, or go talk with George Benson out at his house in Phoenix. I'm going to be doing a George Benson camp coming up in January with Steve Lukather is going to be there, and Tommy Emmanuel, and a lot of other people, Corey Wong, a lot of people I've interviewed, which is really exciting. And but to do that, these things are, it takes a lot of resources to do that. So I basically invest the money that I make from YouTube and from selling my educational courses to fund a way to give back to people if they just have an internet connection through YouTube. That's why there's no corporate sponsors. There's never been. And a lot of people are like, well, Rick, this would be a lot easier to do if you had people taking care of it. And I've had people approach me about it from big companies. But it's like, oh, it can only be 6 minutes. Oh, wait a minute. I have to have it approved. Somebody has to watch the cut of the video. Oh, you can't ask that question. Oh, could you ask this? Maybe you could talk about this or that. This is how it goes. Once you take money from someone, you take away your independence. You basically gotta you have to do what you have to. They have a voice in it. Let's just say that. I know some YouTube channels that I've watched for a long time that have sold a portion of the channel off. And frankly, to me, the video quality, some of the channels that I really like, I've seen the video quality suffer. And I understand why the people want to get out, and people that, because it's very difficult to do this stuff. Or I should say it would be easier to do it if you have a large corporation behind it. But with that comes all these strings that are attached. And, I was saying this, like, when I make any video, it's like, how long do you make the video? As long as it needs to be. When do you put the video out? Whenever it's done. There is no schedule here. I'm not like other channels. I don't have anything scheduled. On Tuesdays, it's this, or on Fridays, it's that. I put out my videos when they're done, and they're about, the things that I ask if they're interviews, and that's it. I think it's really important to be independent, and frankly, I would say that to every musician, it's important to be independent. Andy says, got the bundle. If anyone's considering it, it's well worth buying. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate that. When do I get a haircut? Whenever I can. I got a haircut. I filmed yesterday's video, and I had a haircut scheduled at 3 o'clock. And I got almost the entire video. I got 95% of it done. And I said to Tom, who works here, I was like, well, I got to go get my haircut, Tom. And so I'm going to be gone for a while. I'll be back, and I'll film the last couple minutes. And I said, you know how many times I've gotten my haircut during videos? And Tom knows that because he's seen it. I was like, I don't think people ever notice. And then, of course, this is like the first time, the first comment in there is, Rick gets a haircut in the middle of his video. I've done that so many times. I usually get my haircut about every 3 weeks or so. Otherwise, it looks really, really bad. Anyhow, so let me tell you a little bit about the Rick Rubin, Tori Amos trip. So Rick was absolutely fascinating. That was the first interview that I did. So Rick had asked me if I would be on his podcast, and I didn't know what that was going to be like. I've listened to Rick's podcast, but we did them in two different buildings at his villa. It's this beautiful thing in Tuscany. I mean, it's amazing. And so I'm sitting there with Rick, and he's such an interesting guy. And he's sitting cross-legged, and this beautiful light is coming in through this window in this incredible, sparsely furnished place. When I say sparsely furnished, there were two chairs in this building. They had this amazing brick arch in it. And this is like a building that's, I don't know when it was built, probably in the 1600s or something. And it was absolutely fascinating to talk to Rick. So we did a 3-hour podcast, and then the next day I came back and we did a 3-hour interview for my channel. And we talked about his career, about a lot of the records he's made. We listened to music, and it is so fun. Oh my God. And then we left there. Mike and I flew up to London and then headed down to Cornwall, England, where Tori lives. And Tori and her husband, Mark, were kind enough to host us for dinner the night before at their place. And she has a studio at her place. It's beautiful, beautiful studio. And we did an interview the next day, and it was just so great. You guys know I'm a huge Tori Amos fan. It was absolutely fascinating to speak with her about her career, about all these amazing songs that she's written, and her incredible piano playing. Man, unbelievable. It was really, really great. And then got back this week. It was a great trip. I don't usually go to Europe to do interviews. Most of the time that we're doing things, we're going to either New York, Nashville, or LA. Once in a while, like I said, with the George Benson thing. We went to George's house in Phoenix, but for the most part, it's those three cities when we don't do them here. And the thing about no sponsors, once again, so it's like, I don't advertise for any companies. I have a Gibson signature guitar, but the money goes to charity. when we've had it for sale, the 2 or 3 times that we've done it, and then anything else that I talk about, if I talk about a piece of gear, it's a piece of gear that I own, that I use. And that's like the endorsement. Why do I have Gibsons? Because I've been playing them for 50 years, you know? I play Fenders too. I play Marshalls and Voxes and Oranges and what else? Parks and everything. And I've spent a lifetime collecting this gear. And I think it's important for you guys to know that there's no one paying me to say anything. I just would never do that. NJ Sound LLC just picked up the Platinum Bundle. Thank you. Well, thank you. Like I said, this is how I'm able to afford to do this stuff. And the thing about, you know, when I was talking about hitting 1 billion views in total on the channel, and I said, thanks to you. And somebody in the comments were like, no, thanks to you. It's like, no, I'm not the one watching the videos. I'm the one that made the videos, right? And you have to, you know, I do things that I think people are interested in. I make videos of things I'm interested in, and it appears like these are things that are interesting to other people. Just like I ask questions that I've always wanted to ask the people that I interview. Or, you know, how do you write melodies? What makes a melody beautiful? What, you know, how do you know when a record's done? Things like that. There's so many different aspects to this, along with, you know, if it's and it depends on the people's technical knowledge, because I ask things that are appropriate for what the people know. For example, Daniel Lanois, when I interviewed him, the amazing producer, songwriter, singer, musician that made so many of my favorite records, Dan understands all the technical stuff in the studio. So I can ask him about compressors and EQ and mic placement and things like that, and how he got sounds on the Peter Gabriel So album and YouTube Joshua Tree and Unforgettable Fire and all these things. And he can talk about music on so many different levels. And that to me is different than if I'm interviewing somebody that's more of a vibe person and they write music based on where they might not know the technical things to what they're doing, but they're such natural ear players or something, or ear writers, let's say, and they may not have that background. Now I'm going and looking at some of the people that I've interviewed, and it's like, well, a lot of the people I've interviewed have so much knowledge, musical knowledge, like Sting, for example, and Kirk Hammett, Tommy Emmanuel, Pat Metheny. You know, then you have Chris Novoselic, Kim Thiel, and Jack Endino. That interview where I went to Seattle to do this with the guys with Chris from Nirvana and Kim from Soundgarden. Now, they're vibe guys. They don't know what modes are or things like that. And I don't ask them questions like that. I ask them questions that are things that are more about how they did things. Because the musical parts of explaining songs, I've covered a lot of that in my What Makes a Song Great series, which is how I got to interview these people, because they've seen me do breakdowns of their songs. So that's a big thing, right? And I always would say in some of the videos, right, it's like, well, they may not know what they're doing, but I know what they're doing, so I'm going to tell you what they're doing, right? That's kind of my cheeky response to that. Yeah, okay, they don't know music theory, it doesn't matter, but I know music theory, so I'm going to teach you it. And that kind of comes back to the why should you understand music? what's the level of understanding that you should have? Well, you should understand as much as you want to understand. The more that you know, the more that you realize that you can think of things to do without necessarily having a teacher. And when I did my Dweezil Zappa interview, when Dweezil came by here, it was interesting. If you guys watched that, at the beginning of it, I talked about how Dweezil reached out to me when I had 4,000 subscribers. And I didn't believe it was Dweezil Zappa because my videos had almost none of them had more than 1,000 views. And so I see a comment. This was really interesting, Rick. I really appreciate it. Love to talk to you about it. And I see Dweezil Zappa, and I click on it, and it's Dweezil Zappa's YouTube channel. I'm thinking, like, it can't be Dweezil Zappa. And the next day, Dweezil reached out to me, and we got on the phone together. And if you go back to those videos, it would be hard for me to let's see here. Just for example, like, what are some of the titles of videos? A lot of the things that I did back then, early in my channel, were music theory. They were, I did a lot of whiteboard lessons where I talked about modes, about ear training, about theory, about improvisation, how to use scales over chords, more esoteric things. The harmonic major scale, the double harmonic major scale, the harmonic minor scale, and the modes of that, the modes of the melodic minor scale. And, Dweezil talked about in the video, in my interview, he talked about how I was explaining to him things that he always wondered about. Like, what are these things called? Things that he had under his fingers, but he didn't necessarily know what they were, right? And I think that's really an important thing. And I started my channel as a place to go for people, for pros that may have been looking for something else. Like, how can I learn something when I have a limited amount of time? And there was no content that was for professional musicians at the time. And I'm going way, way back here on the early in the channel, like the mother of all chords, the darkest scale ever, ultra mega arpeggios, how pros use compression on instruments, 14 chords to play any jazz tune, futuristic guitar concepts, theory and application, music composition, dissonance equals emotion, contemporary reharmonization concepts. I mean, these are really esoteric videos, but they were esoteric videos that people like Dweezil Zappa, and Steve Vai reached out to me the day after that, and Victor Wooten, and all the people that I had on my channel right at the beginning. Dennis Chambers, Gary Husband, amazing drummers, John Petrucci, who else did I have on? Scott Henderson. And I'm talking in the first 6 months of the channel, I had these people on. And then a year and a half into it is when I started What Makes a Song Great. It's interesting because I have all this, I guess you'd call it institutional knowledge, right? That's where all the theory, the ear training, those things come from, that I was putting out there. How scales are constructed, how chords comes from these scales, and what the progressions are, all that information. That's institutional knowledge. And then there's the knowledge of music production and songwriting and things like that. And I did not make one of those videos till I had 200,000 subscribers, and I did my first What Makes a Song Great on January 28th, I want to say, of 2018. So a year and a half into my channel. Susan says, like the female artist Fuzia, like to see her on my channel. See her do an interview with her. I'm not familiar with her. I'll check that out. I'll check her out. Susan. Um, is Gary's wife's last name also husband? Probably is. Um, let's see here. Has my strategy of using, Jeff says, using popular music to teach theory changed? Your strategy of using popular music to teach theory has changed my musical life. I was all intuitive all the years, never had the language to connect with musicians. Thank you. Thank you. That's a cool thing. Never had the language. Thank you, GDK. Never had the language to communicate with musicians. That is really what music theory is. And like when I talk about my Beato Platinum Bundle, the educational courses that I've created over the last 30 years, the if you just take the my video course, the Beato Book Interactive, what that is it teaches you the language of music. Like, how do you talk about music? How do you understand the concepts of music theory and their application? What are the rules to music? What is the vocabulary of music, and how can you talk about it, and how can you talk about it with other musicians? Things like chord charts, right? How do you read a chord chart? That's a skill that is, if you're talking about a chord chart for a big band, let's say, something that you probably wouldn't. These things are difficult to do. You might have single lines in it. You're going to have chords in it. The chords may be all downstrokes, and you're playing like Freddie Green. And then you have some runs that go along with the sax section, that go with a sax solo or something. And you have to be able to, you have to have a lot of, let's say, institutional knowledge to be able to do that, to be able to read music and to be able to play through chord changes, especially if they have a lot of alterations. Or you can use music theory to learn how to write songs. And that's, how to take your song that's 1, 4, 5, 6 and spice it up a bit with some borrowed chords, with some chromatic mediants, with some secondary dominant chords, and make them something that are just not stock, and that may give you a different melodic, when I think of Radiohead, bands like that go in really different directions, it's because they use these different chord progressions that have dissonance in them, and you need to use melodies that are outside of one key. And that's where you get a lot of melodic interest, and where your songs start to sound, they're differentiated from other people's music. And so if I can do that, if I can listen to the songs, when I listen to a Radiohead song, I can figure out what the chords are. I can figure out what the notes of the melody are in relation to the chords. Oh, they're using a lot of thirds there. Oh, they use a lot of upper extensions on the high points of them, or dissonances. Oh, Tom York likes to use sharp fours at the kind of peak of the melody there. Interesting. And you start to see things like that, and you can understand them if your ear is really trained, which is where the ear training course comes in. So all these things that I have in my Platinum Bundle here are there to teach you to become better musicians and be able to communicate with other musicians, in addition to being better writers, songwriters. The more you know, the more, in theory, I guess, the more interesting your musical vocabulary is. Not always. Not always. It doesn't. They're not. Definitely not. They're definitely not completely correlated. Zoran says, talking guitar geniuses with Bumblefoot would be great. So Ron and I have been friends for years, and I've talked with Ron about being on my channel. We actually did an Instagram together. I want to say like 3 years ago. It's still up on Instagram. I don't know how I would find it, but we did one together. and he's amazing. He's one of my favorite players. Oh, he's so good. GDK says, be interested in taking my take on some ambient electronic area. Any chance with Eno, Bud, TD? I really would love to get. Brian Eno is somebody that I'm actively trying to get on my channel. I'm absolutely fascinated by his work as an artist and as a producer. I think he's a genius, and I'm really working on that. And these things, like I talked about in my video, my video about David Gilmour, which is the same thing that goes for Jimmy Page, and that there's people that I'm actively. I have a list of people that to me I think are really important that I'd love to present to you guys, and I'm trying. I'm doing the best I can with it. It's the a lot of people like to go. They go with their management, their publicists, whatever, and their first thing that they think when they have a new record out is to go to traditional media, and they'll go on Kimmel or Colbert or Phelan, go on these shows and talk to them about nothing, about fluff. It's not that I don't enjoy those shows or anything, but I want to see them being interviewed by a musician. So that's I think that's why this channel has done so well. And the interviews are just a small part of my channel. But when I started doing them, I did them consciously because I felt the responsibility of having a big viewership was to try to use the resources I have to bring these people on, like Jimmy Webb, for example, and talk to him about songwriting. And I just go back to that one Oscar Peterson, Dick Cavett interview. That to me is the gold standard. And Dick Cavett was not even a musician, and he was able to do an incredible video like that. And he did an incredible, two of them with Paul Simon, and he did one with Jimi Hendrix and with John Lennon and Yoko Ono. These amazing interviews, and George Harrison. He did some of the best musician interviews ever. And but the one with Oscar Peterson was really, to me, right on, because Oscar was the perfect guy to demonstrate these things. It's the gold standard to me in interviewing a musician, and Oscar was the gold standard of answering the questions of the interviewee. That was pure perfection, being able to play these things and stuff, and that's why it's important for people to play in the interviews, I think, as well. When Dweezil was on and demonstrating all this stuff, like what he practices and all the Van Halen stuff, the stuff he learned right from Eddie, that was unbelievable. And I know that Dweezil can do, I've known Dweezil for years. I knew that Dweezil can do all that stuff. But when he came in, I had everything mic'd up, ready to go. And he sat down and boom, it was amazing. I had as much fun as, as anybody. And I was sitting right here with him. It was incredible. So that's why I've remained independent and will remain independent on YouTube. No sponsors, no nothing. Be a lot easier to have sponsors. Actually, it would not be easier. It would be more difficult to have sponsors. That's it. If you guys have any questions, put it in the comments section. When I say I don't read comments, you know that I read comments. I do. I don't have a lot of time. I don't read comments. I usually read comments on when a video first comes out. because I find out where all the misspellings are. That is no joke. That is true. I'm just like, ah. The fans are our sponsors. Who says that? Your fans are your sponsors. That's right. That's right. When people purchase my my courses and stuff, that's what funds everything here. So to those of you that have, great. For those of you that haven't, open up another tab and click on rickbeato.com and you can go check it out there. I hope you guys are having a great rest of your weekend. John, thank you so much. That's so nice. Man, I appreciate that. And keep a lookout for these interviews that I have coming out, and I've got a couple other finished videos too. So you guys are awesome. Have a great time this week. We'll see you. Take care.